Alhamdulillah, I hope you're all having a good break. It's great to be with all of you today. Is this being streamed as well? Okay. So today's topic is one that's, you know, probably a little bit more real than what we usually talk about. And for mashallah, the youth here, you might even know more about it than I do. And so I would love for this to be a two-way conversation where chime in and maybe what I'm talking about is already not cool because I'm an unk, as they call them, right? And so I might be talking about Facebook, and you're all on Twitch and whatever else in between. So I think it'll be important to get your feedback into this, but it's also important to have these conversations at a community level. Most of you that I see in the room right now are what would be referred to as digital natives. Somebody like me, born in '85, the first time I touched a computer was probably after I was 10 years old. And that was like a 386 with 4 megabytes of RAM and like 16 megabytes of a hard drive, right? So this is a completely different world from where, my son Ismail, he's 12 now, where he's grown up completely in a digital online world. Internet wasn't a thing until I was 11 years old. I lived in Kuwait, and so maybe it got there a little bit later, but I was already, my brain had developed a little bit before I was submerged into this. Whereas now, you just have to go to Costco, and every kid that's in a cart has a device in front of them. Little babies can figure out how to use a phone now better than some of the adults who are trying to look at it with their glasses and trying to see and make the font super big and all of that. Little babies can figure out phones and devices, and you can give them a completely new device. They could be an iPhone user, and you can give them an Android, and they will get it, right? And we live in a world that is digital, a world that is truly immersed in the digital space. And so then it's important to have a discussion around what is the legal status of being online in Islam, right? The general maxim that we often discuss is al-aslu fil ashya'i ibaha, that the base ruling in everything is that it's ibah, it's mubah, it's permissible until proven otherwise. And so that's what we start off with, the basal ruling around being online, and then we can look at the benefits in it and cross-weigh it against the harms from it, and maybe the benefits of it are outdo the harms, and maybe it's become a necessity now, and we can even make justifications around in order to be successful in your careers, in order to be able to do what you want to do, in order to be able to communicate with our family members. This is even a necessity of life. And that is all fine. But that does not mean that it's without risk. That it does not mean that it's without potential harms. And that's what we'll be talking about today. And subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes that approach. And we talked about it before in the context of alcohol, where the alcohol ruling comes down in steps. And one of those steps is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying that this has nafa', this has benefit, and this has harm. And the harm of it is greater than the benefit in it. So at least we recognize. And so as for us, it's important to then take that similar approach. What are the pros? What are the cons? What are the benefits for our kids and our youth versus what are the harms for our kids and our youth? And the important thing we'll touch on today is why focusing in on the youth. And really, like, the best thing I can tell you right now, and we'll go through the slides too, but one of the things that we learned almost the hard way, and the Muslim world is still struggling with this to this day, is that the tobacco industry, the cigarette manufacturers, one of the things they did very early on was recognize that the earlier you can get people hooked on cigarettes, the longer you'll have them as customers, right? And so that's why even in the Muslim world here, now the emergence of vaping even, and most of the vaping products are actually owned by Big Tobacco as well, and that is actually a gateway to get them onto the cigarettes eventually as well. But one of the things they did was the earlier you start, the longer you'll have them, and they'll be more immersed in that addiction of sorts. And it's important to recognize this is because the brain is still developing all the way until you're 25. And so the brain is uniquely vulnerable to things that might be rewarding, things that might be addictive, things that might pull you in or be able to take advantage of that impulsive nature of being youth. So those of you that are younger here, you know that during your youth, you wanted to try new things. Maybe do dangerous things, maybe jump off of places, maybe go ride a motorcycle, maybe do all sorts of things that, because your frontal cortex, the part of the brain that's supposed to be the brake. So you have your subcortical regions. So if you think of the two parts of the brain, one's an accelerator and one's a brake. The subcortex, or those subcortical regions, are the accelerator. They're the ones that are like, let's do fun things, let's go out and break stuff, let's go out and drive really fast, let's go out and ride a motorcycle, let's go out and ride a bike without a helmet, whatever that is. Try vapes or whatever. That's the subcortex that's like, I'm going to try fun things, I'm going to try crazy things. And then the brain, the frontal cortex part of the brain is the brake that now is like, okay, let's slow down, that's not good for you. That doesn't develop fully until you're 25. And so that time from around 13, 14 all the way to 25, that subcortex is actually you're revving on that accelerator harder than ever before. As you age, that actually goes down and your brake gets better. But during adolescence, that's the part when you're just like, oh, cool, fun, exciting, dopamine. Whatever you can see in your environment that's going to excite you is going to be that much more exciting at that age. And so then it's really important to be considering what the phones and what the games and what social media and what that social affirmation that they get from the likes and the retweets and the reposts and whatever else, what effect that has on the developing brain versus the developed brain. And so we'll start off with, the numbers, right? Why internet safety matters. Youth internet usage, nearly half of teens are online almost constantly. Tomorrow is Sunday. We all get our Iqra Kitabak if you're an iPhone user. You get your weekly usage summary. How did you do? Take a look tomorrow. Just see how you did. See what your social media use time was like, what your gaming time was like, what your productivity time was like, as they call it, right? Just take a look. But teens especially, they're reporting on average 12 to 14 hours a day of internet usage. Before we used to say you spend half of your life sleeping. Now literally people are spending half of their life on the internet, on social media, which is crazy. But that has become the new reality. And if you look at those end user licensing agreements, right? Like, who knows what is the minimum age that you need to be on TikTok? When you sign up, you're actually supposed to be an adult. You're supposed to be 18, Because nobody reads those things, right? That tells me exactly how many of you read the end user licensing agreements, right? You have to be 18. And so when teenagers use social media, for example, it's actually referred to as underage social media use, because you're supposed to be 18. That's when you're an adult. That's when you're able to legally sign a contract. That's when you're able to agree to give up all your information. That's when you're able to do all of those things that we sign up to do when we sign up to do stuff for social media. But even beyond that, 40% of children aged 8 to 12 use social media despite age restrictions, which then raises safety and monitoring concerns. And even when you think about it, like sometimes when you're signing up and it asks you for age, and you can only scroll back to like, maybe now it's like 1997 or something. I don't even know. I'm old, so, but like you have to really go back to find your age. But even when their year isn't showing up, they'll just scroll to the last year that's available and then select as their age. Right? So there are a lot of people using internet even before they're legally supposed to be able to use the internet. And then the last piece, and this is where us as Muslims, we need to recognize this. When the Prophet ﷺ told us, كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ, that every one of you is a shepherd and every one of you is responsible for his or her flock. And the hadith actually goes on. We usually stop there because then it goes on to the next person in line. It says that the woman of the house is also responsible for her house and the family. And so, like, it's not just, when I become a dad, I'll become responsible, or when I become a mom, I'll become responsible. Like, we all have flocks. If you have younger siblings, they're a part of your flock. Inshallah, you will have kids and they are going to be a part of your flock. In fact, even older siblings are still a part of your flock. And so it's important that we recognize that we all have a responsibility to those around us and we have a role to play. But especially for the parents, parental involvement is the strongest protective factor for children's online safety. They've done meta-analyses on this now. So this is not just one-off study. This is not, the biggest protective factor is parental involvement, parental education, parental safeguarding of the use of internet by their children. And parents serve as the example as well, especially, when you're going, so we talk about the first sort of 13 to 14 years and then that next 10 years after that. Those first 13 to 14 years is where the parental affiliation is the strongest, right? Where, when you ask a young kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a dad. I want to be mom. Because like that's who you look up most to and that's who they want to be like. And that is when the term that's often used in psychology is socialization. Like all of the behaviors that they take on are socialized through their parents. The parents act them out. And so during this time, especially for kids, parents, and then by that extension, older siblings as well, are not just, providing the safeguards, but they're also modeling responsible internet use. SubhanAllah, even in households where parents will set up router level internet encryption and router level parental control, guess whose device kids end up using most to look at content they shouldn't be looking at? The parent's device. Right? And so it's really important that we recognize the role parents play in all of this. But I think, I don't pretend to have all the solutions, and by no means am I saying I am perfect at this. Tomorrow my kitab will come out and it's probably just as bad as anybody else's. And parents right now, this is a graph that I think is especially instructive. the stress of parents compared to other adults. 66% of parents say that they're consumed by their worries about money. They don't talk about their stress. They don't want to burden others. No one understands how stressed they are. Parents in 2025, in this modern age, are the most stressed they've ever been. And now, in our increasingly individualistic societies, we used to say it takes a village. And now everybody's on their own. You don't have your family structure. You don't have your grandparents helping. You don't have all of that. And the demands are that much higher too. Every night there's halakha here, taekwondo there, math club here, STEM activity here, right? Like, you're just basically going to school, picking them up, then dropping them off somewhere else. And we've also packed their calendars so much that we end up just being unpaid Uber drivers, right? And so there's a lot of stress that we've taken on for ourselves. But subhanAllah, that last point, it's most days I am so stressed I can't function, or I am so stressed I feel numb. That's what parents are reporting. So guess what ends up becoming that pressure release valve? Here. Stop screaming in the back in the car. Here you go, use the phone. I want to take a nap. Here you go, take the iPad. I want to, right? Like, that's what's happening. And so, by no means am I blaming parents, but hopefully through greater education, we can at least begin to realize that this is toothpaste that you can't put back in the tube. Once this is out, once it's taken hold in all its forms, you can't take it back. You can't put it back, put the genie back in the bottle, as they say. And so it's important. And subhanAllah, and I know you don't always talk about this unless you're on the podcast. But subhanAllah, I was having recently a conversation with somebody who is a lawyer and who ends up seeing a lot of divorce cases. And he was saying that 2/3 of the cases that are coming through to him are related to the use of pornography in marriages. So like this, as that toothpaste is out of the tube and it's affecting marriages and it's affecting our society, it's affecting kids, it's affecting everybody, and it starts with the internet. It starts with how easy and accessible things are on the internet now. So what are some of the popular platforms amongst youth? So TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, everybody knows. Popular for their visual content, interactive features. What else? How many people know about Twitch? Some nods. SubhanAllah, a month ago, I got a call from somebody saying that I am addicted to online gambling. Muslim person. And they were first introduced to it by a Twitch streamer, a young man. And so these are real stories. These are not, this isn't just, I know a lot of the time the uncles in the community often will scare you of everything, right? It's like, this is haram and this is haram and AI is haram and crypto is haram and this is haram. But these are now real, like the internet's been here and around long enough that we can see the consequences at the community level, and we can see the numbers as well in terms of the studies. In addition to that, YouTube and live stream services, so Twitch being an example, provide entertainment, but they also provide educational content, and that's how they can attract young audiences. Then there is gaming and social interaction, and so games like Roblox, Minecraft, Fortnite, and other offer immersive experiences and social chats for youth engagement. And I don't know how many of you know this, but Roblox often ends up being used by predators, where people have shown up to people's houses by tracking IPs and by the kid saying sometime where they live or where they might live, and predators have shown up at people's homes. And so Roblox and Fortnite, and while they might seem innocuous or seem without harm, there's real consequences. And even then, within there's content that is often bordering on suggestive, bordering on, look at the characters in Fortnite, and there's all sorts of ways that things can creep in. And then beyond that, there's the messaging and communication. Group chats, DMs, platforms like Discord facilitate communication, including anonymous or semi-anonymous interactions. And for those of you that don't know what Discord is, while it's supposed to be a community that is often used in the context of gaming, and people who game are also often on Discords, again, it becomes a place where a lot of predatory activities happen, especially when it comes to children and pedophilia. And so again, while it might have been intended for a good purpose, it becomes quickly hijacked with nefarious intents. And I might sometimes speak in code, but I hope you can understand and then ask questions if something I say doesn't come through clearly. In addition to that, the risks and the mental health impacts are real, right? So the first one, increase in online exploitation. So just even from 2022 to 2023, there was a 45% increase in online child sexual exploitation. And from everything from Roblox to Discord and everything in between. And subhanAllah, our community is not immune from this. In fact, an exercise that I might ask you to do is just go to the London Police Service's website and look at the recent alerts around predators. And notice how many of them have Muslim names. And some of them have even done some of their predatory activities at mosques that are very close to here at Wellness. You can get there in 2 minutes. And so this is not something that we can just pretend doesn't happen in our community. It's a them problem and not an us problem. This is an us problem too. Probably at the same rate as it is a them problem. But the stigma and the taboo and the, I've been haram and we won't talk about this, and somebody has actually said to me, I did a khutbah once and I mentioned pornography in the khutbah, and somebody came up to me, he's like, how can you mention that word from the mimbar of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? I was like, man, seriously, if we're not going to talk about it, then marriages are going to continue to be destroyed, and our community is going to continue to be destroyed. Our children, like, subhanAllah, I've also, in the last year, gotten a call from a concerned mom who, and again, this is an important one. You are the only person your kids are safe with. Somebody who was 5 years old was shown by older cousins inappropriate content. And the first time they were really scared. But fast forward a few years, now they're stealing devices to just be able to look at inappropriate content. Right? So I know that sounds really scary, and those ages sound really young, and I have a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old, and I'm like, they're little kids, but this is real, and these are real stories from our community. In addition to that, cyberbullying, the number of people that are being bullied and on the receiving end or even on the giving end of cyberbullying, 1 in 4 youth report cyberbullying incidents to parents, but that's probably the tip of the iceberg. It's probably massively underreported. It's only when it gets bad enough, right, that people will report. You had recent stories of, people committing suicide because they were bullied and they were told, I have pictures of you, or I have images of you, I have videos of you, etc. And so subhanAllah, even that is a real concern. And the consequences of cyberbullying, anxiety, depression, lower academic performance amongst children and adolescents. But beyond that, even if it's not cyberbullying, even if there's no exploitation, just the use of social media alone, and we've talked about this before, the meta-analyses where they've now gathered hundreds of studies on the topic suggest that even as little as 2 hours a day of social media use in that 10 to 14 age range is associated with clinical changes in symptoms of anxiety, depression, eating disorders. And even in people that had no risk, no family history at all. And so literally when, subhanAllah, words have meaning. When I say food poisoning to you, you get a graphic image in your mind of what food poisoning looks like, right? And when I say brain rot, it should have a meaning, right? Rots your brain. When I say doom scrolling, again, it should have a meaning. Or we just take it as, I'm just sitting at home doom scrolling. I'm just brain rotting today, and we accept it as if it's okay, let's just rot our brains. Right? So I think it's really important that we recognize that words have meaning and they have consequences. And so subhanAllah, there is so much data now, and it depends on the platform too. When it's LinkedIn, and so this is for the unks in the room, imposter syndrome, that's usually the key. When it comes to Instagram, it's eating disorders and anxiety and depression. TikTok, it's something else. Facebook, it's something else. So it's it depends on the type of content. And then in addition to that, inattentiveness and, the recent rise in the cases of ADHD that we're seeing, maybe it's better diagnosis, maybe. But maybe also the fact that we can only watch something for 12 seconds before we get bored of it, right? And then we're scrolling through hundreds and thousands of videos in such a short point of time that how are we supposed to pay attention to conversations that move slowly with each other? Read a book, work on something. There are real consequences of this. And again, the need for parental involvement, proactive parental guidance and education are essential to protecting children from harmful online experience. Social media specifically now. What are some of the positive impacts of social media? It fosters connection, community building, identity exploration, supports mental health and affirmation, especially around, a lot of people found communities that they might not have had before for things that were especially stigmatized. So, for example, if you had Tourette's, you found a community of people who also struggled with Tourette's, and that's why you were able to have that sense of belonging, and it helped with some mental health, and it also affirmation and all of that. But did you know, has anybody heard of the TikTok tics? No? Nobody? Okay. During COVID, when we were all at home and everybody, all they were doing was consuming content, the Tourette community, when they found community, they tried to normalize and destigmatize Tourette's syndrome. And so they made videos of their tics, and subhanAllah, there was an increase in the incidence of people showing up to the ER with Tourette-like tics, but with none of the neurological underpinnings of it. And especially it was common in young women, where during that time, the rates were 20 times higher than the people that would normally show up to their doctor's offices, to their primary care practitioners, to their psychiatrists. I have Tourette's. And so there's a contagion nature to it too, right? It's not just the TikTok dances that are contagious, right? Like everything that you see, you take a piece of that and it becomes a part of who you are. But then the risks are real too. So the risks include cyberbullying, harmful content exposure, social comparison. And that's what, when we were talking about the increased risk of anxiety, depression, eating disorders, one of the things that they found is the mediator for this is what they call upward social comparisons. I can't remember the exact number now, I'm sorry, but in a bout of social media use, I think there's something like 200 social comparisons are made by the average person. And they're subconscious, right? Like you're looking at somebody's skin and you're like, oh, she has such good skin. Or her clothes are nice, or his house is nice, or his car is nice, or his muscles are bigger, or whatever, right? Like all of us are, and you can see, especially with the platforms like Instagram, right? Like where even, may Allah bless him, he starts every bite by saying Bismillah, golden balance. But you can even see like, why is his t-shirt rolled up over his biceps? Right? And like, why is he crunching the burger while fully flexing? Right? Like these are real things that happen in front of us, right? And it's because that's what even subconsciously our eyes get like engaged by, right? And so that's what we look at. We're like, oh, or everybody's got the ring light and everybody's got filters on and everything. Like that, like even the men have makeup on, these influencers, right? Like it's like literally that's what they're doing. It's like you're trying to find the thing that's going to engage the viewer the most. And so it means the full face of makeup, that's it. If it means the best kind of lighting, that's it. If it means clothes that aren't going to cover what your physique looks like, or your muscles, or whatever else, that is all of those tactics are used. And subhanAllah, sometimes the tactics get even worse. And I'm just talking about Muslim influencers now, right? Like where for the guys, the brothers that are the Muslim influencers, there's a path. There's a roller coaster, right? Like where they'll start with some da'wah and then why I left Islam and then and why I came back to Islam. And then for the sisters, it's like why I took off the hijab and then why I started wearing hijab and now the hijab is gone again. And these are predictable patterns. Because that's what generates controversy. That's what, he was married to her and now he got married to somebody else and now she's engaged to somebody else. And like, that's literally all that happens. SubhanAllah, I don't think we know as much about our own family members, our own siblings, as we know about these random people living in Dubai, living in Kuwait, living wherever else, and we know everything about their lives, how many kids they have, what food they ate today, what car they're driving, and what their skincare routine looks like and hair care routine looks like. SubhanAllah, these are real things. And that social comparison piece is so important because they say that it's those upward social comparisons that are associated with those worsening risk for anxiety, depression, eating disorders. And then beyond that, subhanAllah, when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says that unzuru ila man asfala minkum wa la tanzuru ila man huwa fawqakum, that look to those who have less than you and don't look to those that have more than you. And that it is more befitting for you so that you don't become ungrateful for what you have in blessings. SubhanAllah, one of the things that upward social comparisons are directly tied to is gratitude and lack thereof. And SubhanAllah, even in modern science, they've done now clinical trials in people who are at risk for eating disorders, for example. And they either had them take part in upward social comparisons, so looking at somebody who might be skinnier than them or look fitter than them, etc. Somebody that's neutral, so you perceive them to be at the same level as you, and then downward social comparison, somebody who you perceive to be not as skinny as you. And they found that While the neutral and the upward social comparisons, actually those individuals reported worsening of their symptoms of eating disorders. The ones that engaged in downward social comparisons actually had an improvement of their symptoms of eating disorders. And so subhanAllah, the timeless wisdom of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is more relevant today in this, think about it before, right? Maybe you had 100 people that you could compare yourself to. And you kind of knew what everybody was doing, and you kind of knew their life on a day-to-day basis. Now, you're comparing yourself to hundreds and thousands of people. Somebody who's renting a Maserati or a Lamborghini to take a picture in front of, or somebody's perfect corner of their house that they're taking pictures, or the Husna vacations that they went to, which is all Muslims going to this all-inclusive resort in Punta Cana, and literally everybody's talking about it, right? Like, you are constantly engaging in those social comparisons, and that's going to have an impact. The other one that's really important is sleep disruption, especially in the youth. Think about it, right? If they're reporting 12 to 14 hours of internet use, and they're also in school or university, or when are they sleeping? And sleep during this time is so important. And last year when Sheikh Adnan and I did that little session before Ramadan, one of the things that we emphasized is sleep is very important. Sleep is extremely important for your mental health. And so that comes with its own challenges as well, and then encounters with predators. And then there's the algorithmic challenges, right? Algorithms are meant to maximize engagement. It's called attention capitalism, right? The longer you can be stuck to your phone, the more ads can be placed in front of you, the more they can train their data sets on you, the more in your email then ads show up for what you want, right? Like, I can tell when my wife has used my phone, because I'll start getting ads from Shein and Moda Nisa and whatever else, right? Like they know us better than our spouses, our parents, our kids. The algorithm knows us better. And subhanAllah, this is the one that's really sad. How much of our religion now is being controlled by an algorithm? Think about it, right? Like, the last time maybe something came on your feed and you didn't like it. Let's see, it was like a hard topic. It was like jihad. And you're like, oh, I don't want to get put on a CSIS watch list. I'm not going to watch this. So you scroll through it quickly. Or for the sisters, the topic of polygamy. Let's say, it came up and you just scrolled through it very quickly. And then on the other side, there was like mashallah, mashallah, again, I love him, Hisham Abu Yusuf, Ustaz Hisham. He has those like heart strings pulling content where you see it and you just you can't help but feel that your heart is softened. And so you'll watch all of it. And then the next time, you'll get 3 of those videos in your feed. And the next time you'll get, and so, subhanAllah, over time, it's like a buffet, right? If the religion was a buffet, the only thing you're getting are the things you like, and the things you don't like are never showing up. So maybe you were getting 20% of the deen, and even though you may have this perfectly curated feed, that's all Islamic. Umar Sulaiman and Mufti Menk, and everybody on your feed is Muslim. Again, still, the algorithm controls what comes to you and what does not come to you. The content that's hard to swallow, the content that'll tell you, maybe you shouldn't be using social media as much. That's not going to come to you. That's not going to show up, right? And that's a problem. And so now think about what that means for a developing brain. Where now you're in this like echo chamber of the same things, your interests that you're in, that just keeps coming up over and over again. Your views of the world, your view of yourself, your view of what human relationships are supposed to look like, right? Like, the number of people who are having difficulty getting married because they keep thinking that those, I'm sorry to say this, fake interactions that they see between the influencers and their spouses are what all marriage looks like, where you just dress up pretty and you walk out and hold hands and like do those random things and go all over the world, and like, subhanAllah, that's what people assume marriage has become now. That's what they're looking for. Where every weekend you're just, bags are packed, they get thrown into the car, show up at the airport holding hand picture while some person is walking away in front of the plane. Like, that's literally what everybody assumes marriage is supposed to look like. There are no hard parts. You don't have to compromise. You don't have, like, that's literally what they're looking for, and then they end up never getting married. All because of the algorithm. And so as we started, balancing the benefits and the risks. Just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about khamri wal maisir, that it has benefits and it has harms, we need to recognize that there are benefits and there are harms, and we need to balance them and moderate our consumption. And subhanAllah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is important in the context of a couple of different things, right? Like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to us that sorry. And I think this is an important way of thinking about this, right? Like he says, لا تسرف في الماء, that do not be excessive in your use of water. ولو كنت على نهر جار. And even if you were at the bank of a flowing river. And that is in the context of something that is good, right? That is in the context of wudu. You have to make wudu to be able to pray. It's an act of worship because an act of worship is dependent on it. And even then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying, exercise restraint. Even if it's all of it is there and available and accessible for you to use, doesn't mean you have to use it. And so just like that, if social media is available and you have access to every device and it's on every device of yours, and you are the one that has to show restraint. And subhanAllah, in today's day and age, I think the same applies to AI, chatbot, LLM usage as well. Like, we have to recognize, especially in that context of the environment and the earth that we have been made stewards over and made khala'if on and responsible for. Our use of LLMs, ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, whatever it might be, has a big ecological footprint. And just because we can use it, doesn't mean we should. What happened to cracking open a book, opening up an encyclopedia, a good old Google search without the stupid Gemini AI summary at the top, or the hundreds of sponsored links that come below it? But now, literally, like uncles, they're like, ChatGPT tell me this. ChatGPT tell me this. How do I make food? Like literally everything is ChatGPT now. And so again, like think about how, and we all know, Elon Musk, for example, manipulates the outputs that Grok gives you. Right? So our entire worldview is so easily manipulated by whoever owns the specific LLM that we choose to use. And it's important that we recognize that. Yeah, so we talked about some of this already. Emotional and social impact. Heavy social media use increases emotional sensitivity, anxiety, social comparison amongst adolescents. There's differences between moderate versus excessive use. Moderate, there's a dose-dependent effect. The more you use, the more the harms. Moderate usage. And so even, subhanAllah, one of the things I would suggest, we are now 55 days, 54 days from Ramadan. See if you can get to Ramadan every week reducing your weekly screen usage by 15 minutes. Imagine how much better your Ramadan will be in 55 days. Imagine how much more Quran you will get read. Imagine how much more adhkar you will get done. Imagine how mindful and present in your fast you will be. Imagine, and now that's the positive, that's the carrot, right? Imagine how many fewer times your fast may have been negatively impacted by something that came across your screen. It could be backbiting. It could be somebody who's scantily clad. It could be something like, it could be just the Muslim Twitter or Muslim YouTube drama that they like to create where Sheikh this said what and Sheikh what said what, and like even that. The istihza of the ayat of the Quran and the concepts of Islam, like you will see people making fun of doing something in prayer and somebody comes and does something to them, or people making dua for LeBron in the finals, or all sorts of like it's actually istihza that is now commonplace on social media. Right? Like, so like, just think about how many things you will be protected from if you just set a goal for yourself in reducing this. Sleep disruption, again, blue light from screens disrupts melatonin. Stress from online content negatively affects adolescent sleep quality. People actually are now showing up with insomnia at younger ages than they ever did before. It's usually old people that suffer from insomnia, but not these days. And then cognitive and academic effects, prolonged screen time cycles harm mood, focus, and academic performance. And there's like studies showing like point decreases, like 8 to 10 points in your IQ just because of your continued social media use and phone use. So, talking about the adolescent brain for a little bit. Brain development from age 10 to adulthood involves hypersensitive reward circuits and late maturing self-control regions. And you know, it's kind of like one of the couple of the examples that I often give to kids, especially when I'm telling them about brain growth, right? One example that hits really well with them is if you think of your brain as a rocket, right? In that 0 to, let's say, 25. That's the time when the rocket launches and can get as far out of orbit as possible. When you hit 25, then you're just orbiting at that same level. And then once you hit 60, then it starts to decline, right? So how far out you go depends on what you do during this period of brain growth. And to show you what's happening inside the brain, think of your bushes outside your house in the spring. There's rampant growth, and that's why you'll see little babies, 2 years old, 4-year-old, 6-year-old, they're literally sponges. Everything they hear, they memorize. Everything they come across, they remember. Because during that early phase, your connections, those branches in the brain are growing like crazy. They're forming everywhere. Then from that 10 to 25-year period is where you get pruning of those excess branch growth. So like now this thing has grown out of control, and now your brain goes in and snips it and makes it look like a brain. And that's what happens until you're 25. But that means, as I was saying earlier, but there's an imbalance between the brakes and the accelerator. The accelerator is going, the brakes haven't fully developed yet. That's going to come in at 25. But beyond that, just like I was giving the example of the tobacco company, these platforms realize the earlier we get them, the more influenced they'll be, the more addicted they'll be, the more we'll be able to sell them content for as long as possible. And so they're specifically designed. Teens are more emotionally reactive, vulnerable to features like infinite scrolls, likes, gamified engagement. And so what are some mitigation strategies for parents? We can reduce impact by limiting the publicly available information, and so have those conversations with your kids. What are you putting out there? Is your address out there? Is your birthday out there? Is your name out there? Is your last name out there? The city you live in out there? What school you go to? And it doesn't have to be like on your profile, senior at this high school. It just needs to say A.B. Lucas on your sweatshirt. It just needs to say London Islamic School on your sweatshirt, or on you posted a video of you playing volleyball, or, right? Like, we don't realize how much information. There are people, I don't know if anybody knows these like OP, these are like these sleuths online that you can post up a picture and they can tell you exactly what street, where you live, down to exactly where the picture was taken, anywhere in the world. You could be on a mountaintop, or you could be in Machu Picchu, you could be wherever, and they will tell you exactly where that picture was taken. So it's not, even the times when, the people get cute and they'll put a heart in front of the kid's face, you can remove that heart pretty easily. Like, we just saw when the Department of Justice released the Epstein files, like, they weren't even redacted properly. So, literally, like, we need to recognize what we're putting out there. And, sorry to put LIS on, but it's an important consideration for Islamic schools as well. What is being put out there in terms of content? What is being put out there from the masjid? What is being put out there from the community center? What is being put out from any and all of our institutions? So, what do the experts say? And so this is where it's important that we listen to the experts. Firstly, social media's dual impact. While social media aids youth in their identity and belonging, it may also increase vulnerability to excessive use during development. I know this is scary, but one of the conversations that we have at Yaqeen all the time is that the internet serves as the most fertile soil for doubts in your religion. You just have to go search something up. You'll find full communities on Reddit of ex-Muslims talking about it. You'll find YouTubers who are ex-Muslims, that's their entire brand. In fact, I know somebody who used to go to all the Al-Maghrib classes that I grew up going to, who's now your friendly ex-Muslim and has millions of followers on YouTube. Actually ran the website wordbywordquran.com, lightuponlight.com, like literally somebody who was even involved in the da'wah. And so these are the festering grounds for doubts. And so, and now with LLMs, the goal for the chatbot, for the ChatGPT is to please, right? Is to, that's a wonderful idea. You can put anything in. It could be the stupidest idea ever. Sorry for my language. And it'll say, you are so smart, Jibran, that you thought of that. People have what's called ChatGPT psychosis, where something that they've hallucinated, something that is not real, they'll put it into it, and it just provides that feedback, provides that echo chamber, where now their just hallucination goes from hallucination to full-out psychosis. Or, on the other side, suicidality. People will just have a thought, and then they'll talk to the chatbot about it, and then you've seen what you've seen in the news. Right? So, I'm sorry, I hate to be the alarmist, and I hate to be that, it's so scary out there, but it is. And if we just keep sticking our head in the sand, we're not going to see it until it's too late. So the APA, the American Psychological Association, it actually has parental guidelines. So it recommends recognizing brain vulnerabilities, monitoring use, modeling behavior. And this is the hard one. We have to model behavior for them. Right? If it means that we show them, look, when I come home, my phone is placed by the front of the house, and I will not use it while I'm at home. When I go to bed, I am leaving my phone outside. When it's Friday, and we have to read Surah Kahf, the phone is put away, we're all sitting down and reading Surah Kahf. Right? It has to be intentional. It has to be, we have to model youth. SubhanAllah, it's not even, okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. Geometry Dash. What type of ads have come on while you've played it? So a lot of these games that kids download have ads that come on. Can you give me some examples of the ads that have come on while you played Geometry Dash? Gambling. Yeah. Timu and gambling. Those are the two. Like, we might think that, oh, it's just a game. SubhanAllah, sometimes I've caught myself seeing when you just looking over their shoulder, and then an ad comes and it's somebody that's inappropriately dressed. And it's a part of a game where some knight is saving them from something else, or you have to close something to make the lava flow one way or water flow another way. And it's all there. It's all in the ads, but we just pretend like, oh, it's just a kid's game they're playing. It's just a YouTube, even YouTube Kids. There is so much inappropriate content there that like YouTube is probably the worst thing that they could be watching. And then the open communication and education are vital. Like speaking early and often, and it can't just be don't use social media. Right? Like even when you think back to Aisha radiallahu anha, somebody comes to her and asks her, what order was the Quran revealed in? And she says that the first thing that was revealed was from the Mufassal. And it taught people about the Jannah and the hellfire until their hearts became connected to the religion, and that's when the rulings came down. Because she said that if the first thing that came down was La tashrabul khamr or La tazinu, then people would have said, we will not stop drinking alcohol, or we will not stop doing zina. This is, 1,450 years ago. That's what they would have said. So how do you think that kids today are just going to be like, yes, okay, I won't use Instagram. I won't use Snapchat. I won't use TikTok. Right? Like that, we have to be honest. And so open conversations early and often are important. We have to talk about this. The prevalence of sexual content is so common. Games, ads, videos, and it can be potentially confusing and distressing for youth, right? Like, now we live in the age of OnlyFans, which has now made access easier than ever before. And we need to recognize that. Additionally, there's risks associated with sexting. Images can be reshared, causing shame, preventing disclosure amongst youth, and all of that. And now in the AI world, any image can then be turned Sora, whatever, can now turn it into a video and turn it into whatever. And so the consequences thereof are even going to be greater. And how do we talk to kids? The kids require non-judgmental support, right? Like, it can't be like, what were you watching? And then it's, like think about it. If the first time you heard about something and your response was yelling and bringing the house down, are they ever going to come to you again? Are they ever going to come to you again with anything they're scared of? Right? And it takes a lot. Like, you have to now control your impulse and control your reaction, and you might be in a state of shock, and you might be in a state of anger and all of that. But that first conversation is going to change how the next conversation is going to go. And that reassurance that they're not in trouble, and reassurance that no matter what happens, I will be here and I will always be in your corner. And then creating safe spaces, building safe environments at home, encouraging open discussions. Have any of your friends ever shown you something that you felt scared of, or you felt, you don't have to tell me their names? Because that's the other thing, kids will protect their friends. We all were there, we all were kids. Somebody threw a rock at something. Oh, I don't know who threw the rock. I don't know who hit the ball. I don't know who did this, who did that. Like, we all did this. We all protected our friends. So they can't also feel like you're going to call their friends' parents and get them into trouble. What you're trying to do is create that safe space. Like, if you tell me the truth, you're not going to be in trouble. That's probably the most important safe space that we can build. And this is where it gets really scary, right? Grooming is real. Where people pretend to be younger and encourage secrecy. And it also happens within our community. It happens within our masajid even. Right? Like within our Tahfiz al-Quran centers in the GTA and other places. Then there's secret recordings, capping as it's called, right? Like where you record or screenshot kids during chats and then you use it. And even this happens on Roblox and other places. And then, sextortion uses images for blackmail, panic, shame, and, people don't report it. And then prevention is very important. Again, encourage open communication. Prompt reporting to authorities is essential for victim protection and protecting the general community as well. And that's, I think, something that our community really struggles with, where things will happen and they'll be like, oh, we can't, oh, this will bring shame to the community. This person has a family, he has daughters, or he has whatever, and then nothing comes out until another victim is impacted. And so there are things where the communal protection takes precedence over the protection of any one individual. And so that our religion places the right emphasis on what is to be protected and what is not to be protected. Cyberbullying and gaming, and I know I've gone over time, I'll try to end very quickly. There are risks in online gaming. Online gaming exposes children to strangers, toxic language. The type of language used in gaming, highly, highly inappropriate. And that's where a lot of kids will learn their first whatever word, as well as from gaming. And then inappropriate role play pressures. This one's a big one, gambling-like features. How many of you have heard of or seen the loot boxes or the surprise boxes that like kids are like waiting? It's like, I have 3 hours and 25 minutes left until I can open the loot box. There's actually a study by Luke Stark out of UBC, and he's shown that those are directly linked to increased gambling risk later on in life. Because that's what it is, right? It's mimicking, you don't know what you're going to get. Every click is going to produce a different reward. And so there's actually in psychology, unpredictable rewards invigorate behavior. So if you don't know what you're going to get, you're going to keep trying it more and more, and that's how it's going to become habitual. So it encourages addictive behavior in younger kids. And again, what can parents do? Disable purchases on the apps. Limit playtime, right? Like we have a Switch at home, and I have a time limit on it, and only I can then go into the system and increase the time on it, and it shuts it off automatically. Turn off voice chats, and then explain chance-based rewards to your kids. That the reason they're gamifying this, the reason these are included in the games, is to make it more addictive, is to make you keep coming back for more. Okay, so how do we talk to our kids? I think that's, when we talked about it in the context of substance use before too, talk early, talk often, explain to them, and as we started with al-aslu fil ashya'i ibaha, one of the things that it's important for Muslims to do is our only conversations with our kids can't be everything is haram. This is haram and that's haram and this is haram and that's haram. Because not only does that impact their image of our religion, it also impacts their image of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Where instead of Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, it becomes a cop-like image. Where it's just, I'm going to be in trouble for this and I'm going to be in trouble for that. And even when you think about the stepwise manner that the prohibition of alcohol comes in, first is like from the nakhil, from the palm trees, and the dates is drinks, sharab that is permissible for you, and then it goes into, firstly the nafa and the harm from it, and then it goes to la taqrabu salata wa antum sukara, and then it goes to rijsun min amali shaitan, and it goes through that stepwise process. The first thing we should be doing, everything is permissible unless stated otherwise. Allah has blessed us with the blessings in this dunya where there are so many that we can't even count them. And if we were to start counting the number of things that are impermissible, maybe there's 10 of them, or 12, or 15. There isn't that many things that are impermissible compared to all the things that are permissible. And so again, forming that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for them. Clear and supportive communication, use clear language, validate the children's feelings and to promote understanding about online safety, encourage open dialogue, ask open-ended questions so that they can share their online experiences and concerns freely. Yeah, right? Like if it's like, oh, what kind of ads were coming up on the game? They're only going to tell you about the ads that they weren't scared by. Right? But if you're coming from a place of curiosity, I just want to know. Maybe this is a game that we avoid because the ads aren't great. Maybe this is a game we purchase. Like, think about it, for $1.99, you could prevent any ads coming in front of your kids. Then maybe it's worth $1.99. Right? Like, it's like we need to have these conversations with ourselves as well and do the equations in our head. Unpredictable ad that might expose them to gambling. No ads at all. Maybe it makes sense to not have ads. Right? Like and that calculus is going to be different for each one of us, but at least have those conversations with yourself. And then the most important thing, normalize help seeking. Like the Prophet ﷺ seerah is filled with stories of people coming and seeking help. Asking the Prophet ﷺ that the affairs of this world have become too difficult on me. Telling him, even the Sharia of Islam that have become too difficult on me. Give me something that will suffice me. Even they're coming to the Prophet, right? Like, think about it. Like, our usual social desirability bias, we probably won't even come and tell the Imam all the real feelings and things that we think about. Somebody is coming to the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and is saying that all of these faraid, all of the prayers and the zakah and the fasting have become difficult upon me. Give me something that will suffice me. And he gives the person zikr. Right? Like we have stopped seeking help. People suffer in silence with addiction. You only find out once they're being buried because they overdosed on something. Or until their marriage got destroyed by something. Or like that's when you find out. We have to normalize seeking help. Seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and seek help from the people around you. We have to model that. If we're struggling with something, then show your kids, I'm going to go speak to Sheikh Adnan tomorrow about this I'm struggling with. So that they know that they can go and speak to Sheikh Adnan when they are struggling with something. And it doesn't have to be you. Maybe you can help them find a safe person in Sheikh Adnan, or their halaqah teacher, or somebody. One youth, one person that's just might understand them a little bit better. SubhanAllah, even for when it comes to suicidality, one of the biggest protective factors is just one adult that the youth feel understands them or gets them. One person. And so normalize help-seeking behavior. And then family online safety plan, set screen-free times, designate specific hours where screens are not allowed to encourage offline family interaction, maybe dinner. No devices at the dinner table. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy, self-explanatory. Okay, this way we'll be able to talk to each other, we'll be able to, talk about the day, etc. You can set bedtime, before bedtime, half an hour before bedtime, an hour before bedtime, blue light, etc., whatever. Whatever works for you. I don't have all the solutions. But find those things that work for you. Define device usage rules, approved locations. No devices in the room, maybe. Everything's on the TV screen in the living room. Everything's on the PC in the living room. Whatever's happening is happening here. No phones in the room, no phones in the bathroom. I think about it like we're supposed to say Ghufranak, and we're supposed to Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubuthi wal-khaba'ith when we go in and seek forgiveness for not having remembered Allah while we're in there. And how many hours are people spending watching reels while sitting on the toilet? Like, just think about how far removed that is from the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'm sorry to be calling this out, but like now you have people on Instagram making fun of it, that the husband comes out of the bathroom and he's limping because he's been sitting on the toilet seat for so long watching videos. This is not a joking matter. Right? So and then establish privacy and communication guidelines. Tell your kids this information is private. Just like there are parts of their body that are private, this information is private, your name is private, your last name is private, your address is private, your siblings' names is private, your teacher's name is private, your school's name is private. All of that is private. Don't share that with anybody. And then identify trusted adults that we mentioned already. One of the things you can do is, for example, you can do router level control. So if you have Rogers internet, for example, the Rogers Xfinity app allows you to, under Wi-Fi, you can set people up. So in my app, I have Ismail and Ishaq, who are my kids. All of their devices, Nintendo Switch, Chromebook, MacBook Pro, all of their devices are in there. You can set parental control. It won't even open up ChatGPT on those devices, for example. Which is, I'm glad that it won't open up ChatGPT, right? You can set time, you can see how much time they've been on, you can pause all devices, you can do a lot. And I would even say go as far as put your own devices on parental control too. See how much that improves your internet usage experience. Maybe you'll find yourself with all this free time that you didn't have before. Try it. So then supports and resources in this as well. And first one, calm and supportive response. If you're going to bring the house down, if you're going to start yelling, if you've disgraced the entire family, what face am I going to show to my grandparents and their family living in Syria or Jordan or Pakistan or Afghanistan, or nobody's telling you anything again. Start crying and bawling, oh, this is why I never wanted to come to Canada, this is why I said this or that or the other. That's not how it's going to work. These are problems that are everywhere. They're not just Canadian problems. They're not, in fact, when you look at the Google search histories, the Muslim parts of the world are searching for things that are much worse than the non-Muslim parts of the world. If there is a disclosure around anything like predatory behavior, anything like solicitation, anything like sextortion, anything of that, take screenshots, block perpetrators, report to authorities, and importantly, seek mental health support. You can't, if you've shut off the tap, you also have to get rid of the flooding. You can't just you can't take care of that and then leave the other thing. Ruh, for example, has wonderful therapists that can support all ages. Get support for yourself, get support for the family. And then again, those key affirming messages. Reassure children they won't get in trouble, they can talk openly, and their safety is paramount. And then lastly, some resources for online safety. Cybertip.ca serves as a central platform for reporting online exploitation and protecting children from harm. Kids Help Phone is another one. There's a Muslim hotline called Nasiha. So that's another place that you can call. And then canada.ca/online dangers, the APA Health Advisory, and John Hopkins also have educational materials and mental health guidance. And I think I've taken enough of your time already, but I'm happy to answer questions that any of you have, inshallah. And thank you for sticking around on this cold, icy day outside. And hopefully this was of benefit. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Any questions? Yes, it's mine.
Can the mystery box idea be used for death? Could you give an unknown reward, or provide yourself an unknown reward so you keep working
Yeah. No, we should create an app. Every time you memorize a page of the Quran, you get to click on a mystery box and it opens something for you, right? Like we could do that. Or subhanAllah, even if you're trying to get to the masjid for Fajr or you're trying to get up for Fajr, you can set up a partner or a buddy that's like, okay, you come up with a random number every 15, like use a random number generator on Google, right? And the first time it's the third time, and the second time it's the 12th time, the fourth time it's the 15th time, and the 15th prayer that you get to reward yourself. Your friend tells you, here, right? So that's a great idea. Like I think we can use it for good. Maybe the number of days that you don't watch inappropriate things, that can be something that your accountability partner can help you with, right? Like you wanted that pair of Jordans for a long time. You've now gone, 3 months without looking at anything. You can go outside and buy yourself Jordans, right? Like, so I think that's a great idea. Maybe some of the app developers here can think of something to do with that, inshallah. Any other questions? Yes? It comes up, yeah. There are third-party apps that do a better job of that, right? Where now it's not your native screen time limits that you can bypass. There are third-party apps that you can then tell your wife to set the password, and then you'll never know it, and you'll never break it, right? So that might be one way to do it. Yeah. Yeah, so if somebody else has set the password, then you can't break it. Yes? Yeah. Yeah, the thing is, like, it's pretty easy to just get it back, right? So the deleting helps. The deactivating your account helps. And that's where, honestly, Ramadan is that perfect time, where that shaitan is locked up, and hopefully you are the variable. You are the single variable in that equation, that you can hopefully now take control of your nafs and try to control that.
I don't have Instagram, TikTok. I only have Facebook for 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
And WhatsApp, obviously, all the whole day. And I still feel that phone is distracting. And many times I just open looking for something.
Yeah.
There's nothing exactly I'm looking for. So
how to avoid that? No. We've literally, so those of you that study psychology might have heard of Pavlov's dog, right? Like the experiment that Pavlov did was that they trained a dog to salivate to the dinging of a bell, right? Like the bell would ding, and initially they linked it so that it was an association that shouldn't have been there, but over time that association formed where then every time the bell dinged, the dog would salivate. We're worse than Pavlov's dogs, right? Like ding, phone, like buzz, like pocket phone comes out of the pocket. No, oh wow, mashallah. Wow, then you're even better than most of us. But for the rest of us, like we literally, any buzz, even when we're driving, when it's like dangerous and illegal, oh, there's a buzz. I have to check the phone. And it's like, I can't wait until the next light when it comes, and I'll pick up the phone and check it. Right? Like so I think I don't have a solution for what you're saying. I don't have a solution. I know sometimes we go looking for something to do. I think maybe in that case, on that first screen of your phone, I'm going to try this at home, inshallah, today as well. On that first screen of your phone, put the Mushaf app on that first screen. And put all of the things that can lead you to good on the, like subhanAllah, one of the things that has changed our family's even thing, right? Like on the podcast app, we listen to the first series by Yaqeen. And as soon as the car turns on, the podcast app automatically is connected and it already starts to play a podcast. And so there's like, without even thinking about what else we might do, automatically, and like the kids are listening, everybody's engaged and learning. Right? So there are maybe some ways where we can just put something right in front of us that will be beneficial for us instead of the alternative. Yes.
The thing that I find is like the brain part where you feel like a release, and how that's kind of like you crave that after you've been working or after you come home from school.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is like, are there any like ways that you can alter this like biochemical or like physiological thing that's happening, neurotransmitters and stuff? Because I guess that's what I struggle with.
Yeah, so people often refer to as numbing. Right, like where I've had a stressful day at work and I'm gonna scroll. I'm gonna just to numb from that stressful day. Yes, subhanAllah. And this is what I study in my day job, right? Like a lot of people will say that about drugs, that I need to drink alcohol to just let go of all the stresses in my life. I need to smoke a cigarette to just de-stress. I need to smoke a joint of cannabis to just de-stress and let go of all of it. And what we see from the data is that it's actually not helping you numb. It's not helping you de-stress. It's actually worsening your anxiety. It's actually worsening your depression. It's actually worsening all of those things. And it's the same thing with drugs as well. That they actually worsen it, where people will take that little relief, that little euphoria that they feel, even though it comes with negative affect. Like, the next time, just see how a 3 or 4-year-old reacts when you take the phone away from them. You've all seen it. You've all seen it. That's what those neurochemicals in the brain, that's what they're going through when you finally decide to put it away. It hasn't benefited you any. In fact, now the withdrawal thereof is going to make you feel that much worse. And so it's important that we recognize that while we may perceive something, and that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Asa an takrahu shay'an, that there is something that you might hate, but it is better for you, and there is something that you might like, but it might be worse for you. So you might think that this is relieving for me. After a long day work, this is actually helping me relax, but in fact it is worse for you. And so I think that's where we have to have those honest conversations with ourselves. Is this actually helping my mood? Am I feeling better or worse? Even down to the specific accounts you follow, right? Is this person helping me feel better about myself or worse? Is this account helping me feel better or worse? Is this content helping me feel better or worse? And sometimes, as you were saying, we will bypass those limits. We are the best at making excuses for ourselves, for our behaviors, right? Like, just today I need to do this. Or if I follow this person and I know they don't do the most Islamic things, but this is a form of da'wah. Or this, we will bend over backwards, the gymnastics that we'll do to justify things for ourselves are crazy. So that's where the honesty is also important, right? Is this really the reason, or have I just deluded myself into thinking that this is good for me when it's not? And I think that the honest conversations all around, I think, is probably the motto of this today. Inshallah. Jazakumullahu khairan. Hopefully you all have a restful break, and I hope everybody gets home safely. And tomorrow we're supposed to get some even more freezing rain. So, inshallah.